So you're going with a yes but.
Yes, but.
You'd keep it, but we modify it.
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about the modifications a bit later. But you're saying that there was a kind of intervention which was based around racial categorization, which is why it was introduced, and you believe that some of those interventions are still necessary.
I believe some of those interventions are still necessary. But maybe not as necessary as before. But we're not ready to completely abolish it altogether.
What about you? Keep it or get rid of it? And you can see that you can give qualified answers, right? I mean,
I think this is not a very simple decision to make, whether to keep or to abolish it totally. When you guys are actually telling your views, I was thinking about human nature, okay, on whether should we categorize ourselves. Even we don't have an official categorization system. I believe it is human nature that we want to find something similar, or we band together similar. Whenever I do facilitations with student leaders, with students, and so on. So when they first enter into the room, I always tend to make these observations. They will always sit together, either they belong to the same race. You sit together, okay? They'll look for similarities. Either they are from same school, same races, or so on. So if we take away this categorization totally, then will we end up with identity crisis? People start to ask questions, who am I actually? So can we actually abolish it totally? My answer is, I think we should not. There needs to be some identity, whether it's a culture, ethnicity, or even racial, that we need to belong to, because this is really the base of our identity.
So you're saying that we should keep it, but actually the reason that you're suggesting we should keep it is quite different from what Divian said. You're saying that you should keep it because of personal identity.
Personal identity and the need for people to feel safe, comfortable within their own categories or within their own common groups.
But you don't need to know, you don't need to be, from a personal point of view, right? You don't need to look at your IC to decide that you're Chinese or you're Indian or you're Asian, right? When you go and meet in a crowd and you decide to seek out someone who's a bit like you, you don't go and ask for their IC, right? You make the decision. So to what extent does the categorization help that? Is it even necessary for that personal identity?
I think for us, this categorization at this point in time is a lot of times trusted upon us when we are born. So our parents decide for us which race and which ethnicities we are actually in. But maybe it may come a time where we should make a decision to choose, maybe in our ICs or maybe in official categorization, which...
No. So I'm saying that, look, the fact that something happens when you're born, right, is because you got born, right?
Yes.
So, your parents literally have handed on some genes to you, and you have no say in that matter. But what the government says, or the fact that you fill in a box on your birth cert, you have that identity from your parents, whether or not the category is there, surely, right?
Yeah, correct. That's right.
But if you're suggesting that we can choose entirely, if neither of your parents were Chinese and you say you're Chinese, that doesn't kind of make sense, right?
I believe that at a certain point in time, maybe we should actually have that choice to make, to say, which one do I actually feel?
But a constrained choice or an absolute choice? Like you can choose between your parents, or you can choose whatever you like?
To me, I feel that this is really a more personal kind of decision.
Okay. All right.
So because ultimately I should feel which I identify more,
right?
Which racial groups I do. Maybe I can even identify between a certain, not just one race, but maybe two or more.
Okay.
Especially if my parents are from different ethnicities.
Yes.
And I note that there are really more and more interracial marriages coming along. Yes. So this under these circumstances, I think I should have the right to make a choice.
Okay. All right. Mariam, what do you think? Just the broad picture. Keep, keep or get rid of.
Okay, in terms of keeping, I suppose for me, I've over the years since I come to understand that it serves a very functional purpose. There's certain policies. Housing is one thing, but housing is very dicey. If it supports you, great. If you're on the receiving end and it constrains your choice, then it's painful, right? But also other policies. For example, when I speak to some people from the Malay Muslim community, it's very important for them, because I think for them it's a lot to do with the special position of the Malays. So I think for them that identification, that recognition, that official recognition is very important. So understanding that, and I think just to take it away, yank it away because the rest of us feel uncomfortable may be overlooking certain facts. So certainly there are certain policies that very blunt basket of 4 or 3 or 2.5, depending on really it depends on the what policy it serves. So therefore, hence, it's not absolute.
Right.
But I say it's very much as a function. Functional, so I say. So, but at the personal level, I'm not so sure whether it's so clear-cut. If I look at my own experience, is my race or ethnicity just entirely dependent on what I identify with? I'm not so sure. A lot of it is also how other people respond to me. Mm-hmm. So I identify myself, and it's not like at birth, you know it. Actually, it grows. It does becomes a conscious, realization, either yourself or through your own parents. So I've not come to a state as of now. I tend to identify myself as a Southeast Asian Arab, or Arab Nusantara. Okay, what that means is that ancestry, it's mainly Middle Eastern. But I completely identify with the Malay community, the Malay language. I dress Malay.
Yeah.
I eat belacan, no problem. So but if I look at my own experience, even as a child, when I interact with the group, the community that I feel completely as my own, the Malay community, the conversation reminds me that the fact that I'm not really Malay always comes up. Even as a child.
Yeah, this has come up a lot recently.
Right?
Yeah.
So and even before this, so even as a child, so yeah, but you're Arab, right?
Yeah.
And then and then the
Not Malay enough. Is that the feeling?
no, it's not that. It's just and then the subtle Arab Malay jokes will come up.
I see.
Right? Whatever. so I think and I also think that we have different identities. And it's okay. Most people see me in Singapore would say I'm a Malay, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
It's only through the conversation and then says, but Mariam, you're not really Malay, right? What is your ICC? Then that's oh yeah, you're Arab. No wonder lah, something about you.
So, but if you didn't have that IC, right, what would change?
Sorry?
If you didn't have that IC, the classification. So you're saying that, are you suggesting that we should get rid of CMI or we should keep it?
I think currently...
Because you argued for a policy side to keep it, and I
Yes.
thought you were about to say that from a personal side, we should get rid of it.
From a personal side, if you get rid of it,
Would it make any difference? What you've just described.
I suppose in a sense, if I would tell people, yeah, I'm really Arab, but whether or not they believe me, right? So I suppose that in that sense, the word in the IC thing doesn't quite
No,
have
I'm going to
any
flip
matter.
the